Okay, you've heard from a senior congressman who believes Sonia Gandhi should stay on. What about those who believe the time has come for an alternative? I'm joined at this moment by Sanjay Jha, the suspended Congress leader, and I'm joined by Javed Ansari, senior journalist who tracks the Congress for years. I want to come to you, Sanjay Jha. You heard Ashwini Kumar there. He says these are extraordinary times. This is the wrong time to call for a replacement for Sonia Gandhi. It will only split the party. She is the unifying factor. Your response?
Rajdeep, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Ashwini Kumar, but let me just make this point very clear, that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. And let's look at the bottom line in a hard numbers game. In the last two Lok Sabha elections, the Congress stands decimated, 44 and 52. If we are still going to live in denial and ignore the writing on the wall, that would be like committing political harakiri. And I do believe that the 23 eminent congressmen, who I have personally a lot of respect for, whose political contribution and experience to the Congress's success over the decades is out there in the public domain, have written a very constructive note. I would like to ask any person who's a true congressman to tell me what is the one objectionable thing they find in that letter. It is actually, Rajdeep, a letter which is in the Indian Express, which puts out how the Congress needs to strengthen its internal democracy, have more transparent elections, get galvanized to actually increase the morale of its innumerable workers all over the country, so that we are able to take on the might of the BJP, which is currently, having a field day in India, that despite a disrupted economy,
sure, but
poor foreign policy,
somewhere the letter, Mr. Jha, somewhere the letter is also an indictment of your present leadership, whether it is Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi, and therefore it has led to speculation that there is a demand for perhaps someone else outside the Gandhi family to become president. Why don't all these 23 worthies say that openly? Instead of leaking out a letter one day before a CWC, come out in the open and say it and revolt then. I mean, you see, you can't have it both ways.
Absolutely. Let me answer, because I heard Dr. Kumar at the fag end of his interview. He was mentioning that Mrs. Sonia Gandhi should continue as the Congress president. But the fact, Rajdeep, is that she had already resigned and retired, and, for personal reasons. And she took over this assignment as an interim Congress president under severe duress. For the Congress party to now say 1 year later that she should continue is being brutally unfair to her. And Rahul Gandhi himself, and I admire and applaud him for this, he himself took moral responsibility. He resigned a year and plus a few months ago. And he said, I'm not coming back. I don't want a Gandhi family person to become a Congress president. So all the 23 people who have written the letter, and there are many other supporters of the letter, signatories, are saying, can we kindly adhere to the request made by the Gandhi family itself? And more importantly, you have to know how to blunt the BJP. This should not become into an internal internecine Congress war, because ultimately you need to be fighting fit to take on the BJP. I think the 23 people who have written this letter today have done it in absolutely impeccable and very refined spirit, saying the Congress needs to resurrect itself without delaying even a single day. And whether you take Mr. Anand Sharma, Mr. Kapil Sibal, Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Milind Devra, Manish Tiwari, Jitin Prasad, it's a good mix of people. There is no old versus young versus middle-aged.
Can I say